So, this is really the difference between, your family. We don't have the same parenting styles. Your kids are kind of sheltered and sweet and kind. And mine would knock over a liquor store, but they would be very, very nice about it.
They'd be very appropriate.
They would be so appropriate. I'm just kidding.
By the way, tune in about 35 years to find out which one was doing it right. We're all just trying our best.
They would never knock over a liquor store. Ever. Candy store, max.
Welcome to another episode of Business for Kids. I'm Jonathan Beard of Lovins.
I am Katie, Mrs. Ruby.
And do you know how I know how to whistle semi-well?
I don't know.
It's because when my late grandfather, who passed away like a year or two ago, when I was a kid, he would hear me just doing this around the house. Just doing dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And he said, learn how to whistle correctly and in tune or shut up.
Nice.
And so I was like, I'm going to practice actual whistling, and now I can do it okay.
Yeah, I don't know why I can whistle well, so there you go.
And then I was whisked off by this large man, and he looked at me and he said, you're a wizard, Harry.
I hate when that happens. You're minding your own business, and then all of a sudden there's a birthday cake smashed on the floor, and your cousin's got a pigtail.
Oh my gosh, we both like Harry Potter, don't we?
We do.
Incredible. We're going to talk about Harry Potter today.
Sometimes called the Millennials' Bible.
Really?
I don't know. Millennials are always told to just read another book. Like, we always make reference to Harry Potter. It's just like it's our cultural zeitgeist.
Oh, you're saying like read something else?
Yeah.
Like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
So we're going to split this up into 2 episodes. We're going to do Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and the Chamber of Secrets. And then we'll do 3 through 7.
7 and 8, because 7 was broken into 2. Yeah.
Well, we're talking about the movies. We might make reference to the books here a little bit because I just recently read the first 2 books to my kids.
Nice. Did you get the pretty
year.
Illustrated ones?
For the first one.
Yeah.
My brother Chris, when my oldest, who's now 8, turning 9 this week, when he turned 1, my brother Chris got him the really nice first one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you for that. He can't use it for 7 years.
Yeah. Thanks, I guess.
But we finally got to use it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I see those. They're very pricey, but they're super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They loved it.
Yeah.
So we will do that. But before we get into this, were you a fan of Harry Potter growing up?
Absolutely. Harry Potter is 5 years older than me, IRL. If there is an IRL for Harry Potter. Harry Potter was born July 31st, 1980. I was born in 1985. But then there's like a drag on the books because, she had to write them. It was a whole thing. By the time Harry was in year 2, we were the same age. And then I was older than him by the end of the series, but because it took longer to come out. But Harry was generally around my age the entire time that I was growing up, which is why it's a thing for me. I love it. I read all of the books. I was delighted when the movies came out. I worked in the movie theater the year that the first movie came out. So
that's super fun.
I know.
It's funny. I remember reading it and getting into it, and then getting my brother Chris into it, and then he got way more into it than me. And so he would read them in like 12 hours all the way through.
Yeah.
And I would read them in like a week or 2. Mm-hmm. And then as the longer ones, and as I got later in the series, I would do what he did and just kind of like binge read it. But he to this day could tell you what happens in every single book, and I cannot. Like, I've watched all the movies since. I have enough for us to talk about here. But like, I've read them all once, and now I'm reading them a second time with the kids. But after the second one, we're now going to take a break for a little while before I think Prisoner of Azkaban is number 3.
Yep.
Because it just gets darker and darker, as we'll talk about here.
Yeah.
Is this for kids?
So the books, I used to go to the midnight releases at Borders, which I don't think Borders even exists anymore. But I remember specifically when book 7 came out, I got so much trash from people because I had a Trust Snape sticker on the back of my car. I had a Trust Snape t-shirt on.
What?
And that was like the big, will Snape betray? And I was like, no, if Dumbledore believed in him, I believe in him. And there we are.
And Snape's pretty awesome.
Snape was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was right, losers. And I was very excited. Sorry, spoiler.
I weirdly kind of liked Snape the whole time.
It kind of sucks at the beginning. It's got to be mean to kids for no good reason.
Not no good reason. They're obnoxious.
They are.
You're a wizard. You find out recently. You show up to the school. You're super annoying.
Bit of a jerk, actually.
He doesn't get the job he wants. Yeah, like, it's not his fault. Right. He's just a miserable man.
Well, yeah, they just keep not getting. He has all of the credentials to be the dark arts teacher. What the heck, yo?
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Kind of a little bit of a plot hole. Like people in Lord of the Rings were like, why didn't the eagle just fly the ring to Mordor?
Would have been a shorter book.
Would have been a lot shorter of a book.
Lot
There's like a
shorter
reason for that. We'll get there when we talk about that.
I think Tolkien hates that argument.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is the very first one. We're not going to go over every single plot here because most of you have probably heard of or seen them. So Harry Potter is a child who lives in Muggle land, which is a word for the humans.
Yeah. Non-magical people are called muggles.
There you go. He has a series of weird things happen to him. His parents die when he's very young. He gets a lightning scar on his forehead. He goes to live with his aunt and uncle and cousin, who is super big. All three of them really are just kind of super big jerks. He lives under the stairs.
That's playing it. They're abusive.
Yeah,
they are
horrible.
abusive.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And he lives under the stairs and has just really a miserable life. He has some things happen to him throughout his life that make him wonder if he's a little bit different, but nowhere near. I don't think he even would have ever imagined that he was a wizard of any kind. He finds out that he is a wizard and that his parents were killed. He goes to Hogwarts, which is where you go to learn how to become a wizard. His family, aunt and uncle, and Dursley. The Dursleys. Mm-hmm. The son's name, Dudley. Mm-hmm. Oh, what a horrible! Just want to
right in the face.
He deserves it.
Yep.
They hate him for it, and they're super scared of magic. And yeah, he becomes friends with a couple of awesome wizards, Hermione and Ron.
Yeah.
Weasley.
Then they have the overarching bad guy, he who must not be named, or Lord Voldemort, who is sort of like a very thinly veiled Hitler figure who's trying to wipe out. He really is, though. He wants to get a master race of wizards. He's trying to wipe out all the Muggle-borns. It's a whole thing. It's Ron and Harry and Hermione fighting against Voldemort and his Death Eaters, and then they've got Dumbledore's army and the Order of the Phoenix behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of like the whole thing.
Big 10,000
feet. On the first one, she brought it way out.
Well, I just kind of get you the whole concept. There's 7 books, 8 movies.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at this for kids, what do you think?
Well, first of all, it's a fun magical thing, and I totally understand why it went viral when it did. Like, I wish I could even think of a book that is like that now. I'm sure there's something out there, but like midnight releases. I mean, that's not really a thing anymore anyway with even video games, but. It was such a fun time to be alive, and people they weren't downloading the books on their phone. They were waiting, and then I was reading it in the car on the way home while my mom drove. It was super fun. So it was in general just like a really fun time to be alive as an old millennial.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're for kids, it's funny. The first two I feel like 100% are. The Sorcerer, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, is awesome. There's a little bit of scariness in it. There's almost no language. Even the evil character who Voldemort is kind of attached to, Professor Quirrell, is not scary at all bubbling until the very end when you see his face. It's probably the only scary part of the first one is when he lifts up his turban and you can see the face of Voldemort. The second one, Chamber of Secrets, I think gets a little bit scarier. There's darker themes. You meet Dobby. See, I'm Team Dobby. There's a correct way to say it, and I'm saying it incorrectly.
There are 2 B's in the word. In English, if there is a vowel followed by 2 consonants, it makes a short vowel sound.
But when in the movie he says, Master Dobby.
He says Master Dobby.
Dobby, that's what I'm saying.
He has an English accent, man.
No, he says you Master gave Dobby a sock.
Dobby.
Have you seen the memes? Master gave Dobby a Glock.
It has an awkward angled handle.
It's Dobby.
It's Dobby.
Okay. Well, let us know who you think's correct, and that's for sure going to be on Instagram. So
it's Dobby.
He says Dobby.
He has an English accent.
Okay, so do I.
No, you don't.
It was written by someone who's English. Isn't it supposed to have an English? Are you supposed to read it like...
But you don't speak with an English accent normally, so you say Dobby.
But that character, he's actually kind of creepy.
He's super creepy.
Yeah, it gets a little creepy. It gets a little darker in the second one.
Yeah.
You meet Draco Malfoy's dad a little bit more. He's in the first one too, but he's kind
mostly
of
in the second.
A horrible person in the second one, and you see some evil going on there and his dealings with Voldemort.
Yeah, the first two movies were very much like the books and the movies sort of grow with their audience, right? So like I said, when I was a little kid, when this movie came out, or when this book came out, I was Harry's age. And then by the time that the last book came out, I was older than Harry. So the books and the movies sort of grow with their reader and with their audience. So in the first two, which is what we're discussing in this episode, I would say you're very right. Those are appropriate for younger kids. I'd say 7, 8 years old is appropriate there. The scary things in the first one are chess pieces, keys, a dog that drools and has 3 heads, but not very scary. Like there's just no monsters. There's nothing. There's no swearing. There's no sex. There's no drugs. There's no drinking. None of those things. So it's very, very pure kind. And then in the second one, I think you're right. There is a little bit of if you have concerns about. Okay, so there's always
a lot of ghosts in the second one, and
yeah, there's always the discussion about witchcraft, right? Like if you're getting into with Harry Potter, is it appropriate to be talking about witchcraft? And for me, I think that there's a difference between fun mythology type witchcrafts, which is what I would put Harry Potter in, and then something that could be easily mistaken for something dangerous. Because I do believe in demons. If you don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about this. But like in the second episode, when they're writing their thoughts in a book and the book writes back.
Unless you don't and you're wrong. Go ahead.
Oh.
Then you might have to worry.
You do have
Sorry,
to worry.
Keep going.
But like if you're ever dealing with an object that you're writing in and it begins speaking back to you, you should definitely no longer engage with that item. Ask me about the AI in Snapchat.
Don't. That'll be a whole other episode.
Yeah, so I think you're right. It does get a little darker in the second episode, but not so dark that you need to bump the age to 10 or anything like that. First 2 episodes, totally appropriate for kids 7 to 8.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And by the way, just a little bit more on that witchcraft thing. A really good friend of mine today, actually, I was talking to her about it, and she was just like, I mean, they're born wizards, right? They don't read a spell and become a wizard and do something. Like, they're just born wizards. It's a story about wizards and non-wizards, and it's just a made-up story. So yeah, the first 2, I think, super appropriate. My kids loved the first 2 books. Loved it. Now, we won't watch the movies yet, though, because they're more intense. And like, just an example with Lord of the Rings, I was reading The Hobbit. Gollum is in The Hobbit. Some people don't know that if they've only watched Lord of the Rings and haven't seen or read The Hobbit. And my kids were like, what does Gollum look like? What's he look like? What's he look like? I was like, I'll just Google it and show you. And then I did, and that was a horrible mistake. My kids, again, they're young, show them the picture of Gollum, and they're terrified now. To this day, we're like, we finished, so we read Hobbit, then we read the 2 Harry Potters, and then now we're reading the first Lord of the Rings, and they're still scared of that picture of Gollum that I showed them. So a little bit sheltered, if you will. So Harry Potter, it's scary when you see Dobby than when you read about him. It's scarier to see the spiders in the Chamber of Secrets than when you read about them. It's You know what I mean? It's scarier to see the ghosts probably than when you read about them. But overall, I'm with you. I'd say like 7, 8, 9 years old for the first 2.
So, this is really the difference between, your family. We don't have the same parenting styles. Your kids are kind of sheltered and sweet and kind. And mine would knock over a liquor store, but they would be very, very nice about it.
They'd be very appropriate.
They would be so appropriate. I'm just kidding.
By the way, tune in about 35 years to find out which one was doing it right. We're all just trying our best.
They would never knock over a liquor store. Ever. Candy store, max.
My kids haven't even tried to accidentally steal yet. Like, I've heard stories of people going to like Noodles and Company or Panera Bread where they have all those juice boxes down low and like reach of the kids, and they could just like grab one. Like, there's nothing wrong if you accidentally do that. You gotta keep an eye on your kid.
Yeah, none of my kids have ever done that. One of my kids asked Maggie, when she was my oldest, my 15-year-old, when she was a baby, put clothes in the bottom of the cart because she thought that's where they went, and we walked out with them, but we brought them back in. That was about as close as we got.
A lot of people are like, John, when are you gonna let your kids play video games? And I was like, I walked in on my 8-year-old today playing War with a stuffed animal. There was a stuffed animal and a deck of cards, and he was playing War against himself, pretending with this animal. I was like, not anytime soon. He's having fun.
He's having a great time. Yeah, I had to physically remove my children from video games this weekend, so whatever. Just difference in parenting.
Tune in 50 years.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, where could they find more of this content if they wanted more content?
Well, they can go to isthisforkids.com and find everywhere that we're located. But if they're looking for extra fun bonus things, they could become patrons and go to patreon.com/isthisforkids.
He always says //
//
He's such a boomer. Yeah, absolutely. Check us out on Patreon. You can get additional episodes every month. And also you can join our Discord, get personal access to ask John and I questions about which of our children is the most likely to commit a felony.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Indeed. Hey, there's just so much content out there for us to navigate as parents.
I'm Jonathan Beard of Blevins.
I'm Katie, Mrs. Ruby. Let us help you decide.
Is this for kids?